Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Far Above Rubies today. I'm so very glad that each of you are here. Today we're continuing our walk through our series on lessons from the wilderness, and we're talking about the idea again, similar to yesterday's God being provider, but today we're talking about beyond the manna. Beyond the manna. And this is where God brings quail for the children of Israel to eat. We're going to read Numbers chapter 11, verses 4 through 10 together, and it says this. Then the foreign rabble who were traveling with the Israelites began to crave the good things of Egypt, and the people of Israel also began to complain. "Oh, for some meat," they exclaimed. "We remember the fish we used to eat for free in Egypt, and we had all the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic we wanted. But now our appetites are gone. All we ever see is this manna. All we ever see is this miraculous provision from God." Okay. The manna looked like small coriander seeds, and it was pale yellow like gum resin. The people would go out and gather it from the ground. They made flour by grinding it with hand mills or pounding it in mortars. They then boiled it in a pot and made it into flat cakes. These cakes tasted like pastries baked with olive oil. The manna came down on the camp with the dew during the night. Moses heard all the families standing in the doorways of their tents whining, and the Lord became extremely angry. Moses also was very aggravated. Very interesting scriptures. Now this title of Beyond the Manna is actually a message that I heard, I'm telling my age, genuinely 20 years ago as a teen, that has never ever left me. Okay, so the basic premise of this message and the title come from a minister I heard it from many years ago. The Israelites wanted more. Wanting more is not bad. However, the heart, the spirit, and the attitude with which they desired more and with which they expressed that desire, those things were wrong. Did the Israelites go about getting beyond the manna and getting into the quail that was given after this scenario happened? Once this conversation takes place between God and the Lord, which was really interesting, Moses says, "Why did you do this to me, God? Why did you give me these people to look after? They're basically a bunch of crybabies." That's pretty much what he told God, okay? God said, "You know what? They're not satisfied with the manna. I'm going to give them quail," and massive amounts of quail. This was to feed more than 400,000 people, okay? Massive amounts of quail would fly into the camp to provide meat for the people. They couldn't understand how God would possibly, even Moses said, "I can't understand how you'll possibly give enough meat for these people to eat. Where am I going to get it from?" God said, "Don't you worry about that. I'm going to take care of it," okay? But did the Israelites push into this area beyond the manna, beyond the already miraculous provision with the right hearts and attitudes? Absolutely not. But God was able to give them more than they were experiencing. Imagine how pleased God would have been with his people had they asked for more in faith instead of complaining and grumbling. Some of us experience a small taste of God's power, and we're completely satisfied with that. We're satisfied to stay right there in that moment and never press further into what God can and desires and is willing to do for us. And I don't think that's the best case scenario for any of our lives. If we taste and experience that God is good and we see the miraculous at work in our life, that should inspire us and fire us up and say, "Okay, God, what's next? Bring on the miraculous. Let's go in faith. Let's march into what you have down the road, Lord." Then some of us, others of us, experience that same taste of God's power and go, "That's it? That's all God has for me? That's all God's going to give me?" And that isn't a right spirit or attitude either. Why not push beyond the manna? Why not push into the depths of the power that God has for us in faith, believing and understanding, wrapping our hearts around the majesty, the grandeur of who He is and say, God, I know you have blessed my life with this. God, I know you've allowed me to step into this area of your Spirit. But God, I believe that you can take me further. I believe there is more out there for me, God. I believe that you are able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that I can ask or think. I believe that your power has no limits. I believe that you desire me to walk in that power and that authority. Why not press beyond the manna, beyond that first taste of the miraculous, beyond that first experience of the supernatural, and go as deep in God as you can? Imagine how pleased God's heart would have been if His people had asked for more in faith instead of a complaining, whining, grumbling attitude that pretty much got them all in trouble. Either way, God provided for them, but He could have provided for them the extra, the more, the lanyap, with their hearts being filled with thankfulness and faith and trust. Go and read Numbers chapter 11. Go read the whole chapter. There's some great stuff in there and some warnings of what we should and should not do. And if no one's told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished and you are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my sweet friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thanks for being here today, and I'll see you all again tomorrow. God bless you.